just thank you for bearing with us on a few technical difficulties there, but we're finally live. It's good to see you on this Thursday morning. It's going to be a good episode today. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited to have Dominic here with us, and we'll give him a chance to introduce himself here in a second. I want to thank all of you who are watching. If you would, drop a comment. Let us know where you're watching from. Are you at work? Are you at home? Are you still eating leftover turkey? I hope not, because that's not good for you. It's a little past the expiration date on that. But I hope you all are having a great day. Let us know. Engage the discussion. If you have questions throughout this, I have the comments right here in front of me. I'd be happy to read them and be able to answer a few things for you as we go into today's topic. But before we begin into our today's topic, Dominic, you've been around for how many months now?
Been around for 4 months, since August.
4 months. So I know many of you have probably seen him around. He's usually looking super important and doing very important stuff on Sunday mornings out in the lobby.
Sure.
Well, so many people haven't gotten a chance to get to know you or even know where you came from. They just know, hey, you're one of the new pastors here. So why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little about yourself and your wife and just some interesting facts about you.
Yeah, so we have been here since August. We moved over from California, where we were serving in ministry at Lancaster Baptist Church for a few years, and then we planted a church in probably 2017, 2018. Me and my wife, Amanda, who is right off screen. You guys can't see her, but she's right behind the camera right now. And we planted the church in 2018, and then COVID happened just this past year. We're still in it, and God led us in a different direction. And now we are here at Desert Hills Baptist Church, and we couldn't be more excited about what God is doing here.
So I know we probably have some people watching, and there's many people in the church who were here when this church started 13 years ago? 13 years ago, 2007. And with them in mind and thinking about it and just all the work that goes into a church plant, what was that experience of being right in the middle of a church plant when shutdowns happened? And you were in California, where the shutdowns were really bad. How was that?
I mean, it was honestly pretty scary. As a pastor, you have to learn how to be a videographer. You have to do video, camera. You have to learn all of that in a matter of a couple of days. So it's pretty crazy, but we trudged through it. We got through it, and it was actually learned a lot during that time. It was really, really kind of a cool time.
Yeah, very cool. Well, we love what you've been doing here at the church and just everything that you bring into the church and having that lead pastor experience in the background. It's just been awesome seeing how you've gotten our greeting ministry, first impressions ministry off the ground.
Yeah.
And what are your other roles here at the church?
So I work with adult ministries. So everything with small groups and then assimilation, trying to get everyone that steps through the door, trying to get them plugged into the church, their families, baptized, membership class, all of that. And it's a lot of fun to meet all the new people. And then obviously the first impression team, which is a great time as well, getting to greet people right as they come in. It's just really exciting to be involved in all of that. And then small groups.
Yeah, awesome. And we're loving what we did in small groups this past fall. Did an incredible job with that. Well, I'm super excited to have him on the show today and our topic today. So the topic we're talking about is 3 priorities we need in our holiday season. 3 priorities. There is so much going on right now. Holiday season is already crazy enough every year. But on top of all the pressures of, again, we're dealing with a pandemic that we didn't think we'd be dealing with at this point of the year. We're dealing with the fallout of an election season. We're dealing with just churches kind of, there's all kinds of controversy, whether it's an essential thing that needs to be open or not. All these different pressures of what's going on in our world. And oftentimes, it's easy to get our priorities out of sort, but even more so now. So we're going to talk about 3 things that need to be a priority, especially in this holiday season for this. So the first one that we're going to talk about this morning or this lunchtime is financial stability. Financial stability. And so when I think about this, I have 4 kids, and so there's a lot of money that can be spent during this time. A lot of money. And so one thing that's very important here, when we remember we're going to this holiday season, we got to buy gifts for parents, buy gifts for grandparents and friends and family and coworkers and kids and all this kinds of stuff. It's very easy to lose sight of some of the goals that we may have had for finances earlier this year. I know you all had some goals financially coming, especially moving here and everything like that. And then, with the pandemic and everything and what you were doing this before, it's hard to lose focus in those kinds of things and what we're trying to do in our families' lives. So a question for you. When we're thinking about financial stability, and especially the role as believers that we have as stewards in our life, during this season, and I know I'm kind of throwing this one a curveball at you here. Thinking about this season and what we're doing, what is the danger of the fallout of what we're not thinking about after the holidays when spending too much money because it's the holidays?
Yeah, so I'd say two things. Number one is right now we just want to, obviously in every holiday season, you want to get good stuff for your family. But I think more than that, we've kind of gone into, in a spiritual sense, financially, we've kind of gone into the safety mode.
Yes.
Where we're just like, okay, we don't know what's going to happen, so we got to just play it safe in everything we do. And so we have this tendency to kind of isolate, pull back from kind of the commitments we had to our generosity, to our giving, and so that's been one very, very, I think, understandable but dangerous thing we're doing in COVID is playing it safe.
Yeah.
Saying, okay, God, I don't know what's going to happen, so hey, how about we just ease off on the giving or stuff like that during this time. But then also the Christmas season is we have this tendency to kind of put our budget to the side
Yes.
and just kind of, well, my kid wants this, they want the new Xbox, they want the new PlayStation or whatever, and kind of overspend a little bit, and then we pay for that later on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's something that I've talked with a few people who have been, going through some tough times, as we all are going through some difficulties in here. But it's almost like, well, it's the holidays. We're supposed to spend a bunch of money right now. I can, let's see, I'm 30 and you're 33.
Something like that.
Something like that. Something
right around there.
But I can think of, especially this time of year, the sales that are going on. And I can remember, oh man, I remember when the iPad mini came out. I was like, I have to have an iPad mini. And there was a sale going on at Apple because it's the holiday season. And number one, Apple never really has sales. So I got duped into that. But I remember the debt that I accumulated just because it was the holiday season, there's sales. I don't want to miss this. So I spent money that I didn't have in the hole that it put me in early in my young adult life, and then bringing it into my marriage and then things that I had to fix as we go on. And that's something that we are mindful of, even going into the new year. Some of you who are watching may be already thinking about New Year's resolutions. And, obviously, health and weight is a real popular one. But a lot among families is, well, we want to save more this year and we want to be more financially stable this year. But then we get to November and December, Black Friday happens and everything's like, well, throw that out the window. And we make these purchases and, oftentimes we're left with buyer's remorse, regret in that.
Absolutely, and that's one thing that helps with that is kind of a buttress against that is having a budget that you stick to. A lot of times we either don't have a budget, we just kind of play it by ear, we live paycheck to paycheck, and I think you see this all over the Scripture is being wise stewards of the money that God's given us. And here's the reason why that's important is because not only is it something that helps us. Not only is it good for us financially, but this affects every single part of our life. When we don't have wise stewardship, well, then that's gonna strain our relationships because it's gonna be a tension point between me and my spouse, and it's gonna affect our home life because we're not gonna be able to get certain things, or we're gonna have to go without certain things, or it's gonna hurt us when it comes to debt later on.
Yeah.
And then it hurts us spiritually because then we can't give and be generous the way God wants us to. It affects every single part of our life. It starts to affect our attitude. We start to worry more. We start to become anxious because of all these things on our mind. And then we can't sleep. It just has this compiling effect.
Yeah, and I know you've done some marriage counseling in the past before, and I've done a little bit too. And one of the main things that we talk about in a marriage, a lot of contention comes from, is finances. So, which I think this is a good segue. So, our first priority, we're looking at three priorities we need to have in our holiday seasons. And number one is that priority of financial stability, making wise financial decisions during this time that you're not going to regret later and it's not going to hurt you in the long run. So our second priority, what would that be today?
Second priority we want to talk about is relationships. And this is a biggie because I'll get into a couple reasons why, but this one's a big one we need to have in our life right now, especially right now. We need to prioritize relationships. There's three reasons I want to cover on that one. Number one is busyness. Busyness is a strain on our relationships. And busyness is something that keeps us from each other. It keeps us from our spouse. It keeps us from our children. And I know the automatic response people are going to say is, well, we're in COVID. It's just, it is what it is. Everything is just busy right now. But people were saying they were busy before COVID. That was a strain on relationships before this pandemic. It's just busyness is the enemy of a healthy relationship.
That's good.
And it's not just busyness, but go ahead.
No, that was really good. I wanted you to say that one more time.
Yeah,
'cause that was
busyness is one of the enemies of a healthy relationship,
Yeah, that's
whether
good.
that's your spouse or your home life. And then the second thing I would say is entertainment and social media put a strain on our relationships. Not only because they can they change how we view our relationships, because we see other people's relationships on social media, whether that's Instagram or whatever. We see how they are, and it becomes kind of like, well, why am I not like that? But also because it takes it eats up our time. It's a monster of our time. It eats up our time, and it takes that time away from where we should be spending our time.
Yeah.
That's our relationships, and that's social media. And social media, and it doesn't just take our time, but it affects our mood. It affects what we think about during the day when it comes to like politics, and it causes us to have a negative attitude.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So there's those two. There's busyness, and then there's entertainment and social media. And then the third thing I would say is that COVID has strained our relationships right now. Is you have number one, you have remote learning when it comes to families and kids. That eats up a lot of time. That's putting a burden on parents that they never had previous to this. Obviously, some of them are homeschooling, but this is just that added burden. So it's taking up time. And then there's this. Obviously, we talked about it a little bit. Was church. There's been either it's online or it's distanced, and we strain our relationships when we're not able to be with and be in a Christian community like we were able to before.
Yeah.
And then we just, as people in COVID, we have less of a social life than we used to. And that strains our relationship. We know this because data's come out on this, is that an increase during COVID, we've seen increased anxiety, increased worry.
Yeah.
We've seen an increase even in depression and suicide.
Yeah.
And this is caused because we don't have those social outlets that we used to have. And so you have all of these things that are kind of coming at us. So how do we prioritize our relationships? And it's by intentionally building healthy habits.
Ooh, that's good.
We have to build, and the reason I say intentionally is because a healthy marriage doesn't happen on accident.
Yeah.
A healthy home doesn't happen on accident. It's going to take us to intentionally build healthy habits into our relationships. And this means daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly, we are building habits that foster an intimate relationship with our spouse and the people who are important in our life.
Yeah.
And this is huge, especially when it comes to marriages, because during COVID, stuff has gotten busy, and the relationship, that marriage relationship, kind of just, it was put on hold.
Yeah.
Or it's just, we're going to have to get through this. All the more important right now it is for us to build healthy habits into our relationships.
So what would be an example of, for example, a marriage? What would be a healthy habit that you would say?
So let's start with daily. Daily, a healthy habit would be there's a certain time throughout the day that you are spending with your spouse. And I know the first thing people are going to say is, well, I have kids. And this is why I would assume putting the kids to bed at a set time each day. I guess, I totally understand that's going to be tough. That's going to be hard.
I'm agreeing with this.
Yeah. You have a tribe of kids,
Yeah,
and
you
so
know.
you know this very well.
Small town in our house.
Small town, yeah. So you're gonna have to be the mayor in that town and put all the kids to bed. And this is a great habit to have, putting the kids to bed and making sure there's that time, that 1 or 2 hours where it's just you and her, or you and him, and you're spending time talking, watching a show, whatever.
Yeah. Can I
Yeah,
insert
absolutely.
something really quick here? And my wife is probably, I'm in dangerous territory of her calling me a hypocrite.
Yeah.
But husbands, this is directly for you. Set this bedtime and make sure you help your wife put your kids to bed. Help your wife. do the process of brushing their teeth, put in the bed. I'm doing better about it, right? I know my wife's watching right now, okay? Please don't blow
If we
me
get
up
a
in the
comment here in a
comments. Yeah, I know. Can we watch those comments to delete hers if she posts that? Make it a team effort, you know? You can, as difficult it can be to get all your kids to bed, you can try and make it fun. It's almost impossible, but
Is it?
you know,
Okay.
make sure it's a team effort to do that. So that's
Okay.
good. I like that. So that's a good daily habit.
Yeah, and if you don't have any kids yet, this should be an easy one.
Yeah.
You should have that set time throughout the day, and then the week. You want to have a set time throughout your week where you have a date night. And I know, again, people are going to say, but you don't know my schedule. You don't know how busy I am. You don't know how many kids I have. You don't know all the things that are going on in my life. I get it. But you're always going to be able to say that. There has to come a certain point where you're like, okay, we're busy. We get it. We understand. But we're going to have this because my marriage is more important than my job. My marriage is more important than whatever other thing I have going on. Outside of God, my marriage is more important than anything else, and I'm going to invest my time into that. It's going to be a choice, and it's going to have to be intentional.
Yeah.
So I would say day, week, and then a month or quarterly. Hey, take a night where you're getting away with you and your spouse, and you're taking an evening to get away from it all, turn the phone off, turn the computer off, turn the TV off, turn all the things off, and it's just going to be between you and your spouse.
Yeah. Yeah, those are great principles, not just for the holiday season, but overall. But it's that much more heightened during the holiday season. It's easy to forget about each other.
And you're exactly right. And you see this is when there's a happy and when there's a healthy marriage, there's a healthy home. Well, there's more likelihood to be a healthy home.
Yeah.
But when there's not a healthy relationship between husband and wife, everything else suffers. And the children see it, the kids see it, and everything starts to break down.
Yeah, I like what Manny's in our comment section, and I like what he says there that they have a set family time, and it consists of board games, karaoke, snack crate, which I'm interested in what that is, movie night, or video games, and I love that. Those are great ideas.
All except for the karaoke.
Yeah,
I don't know about
karaoke would be pretty fun, of course, but of course my kids would just be singing Frozen the entire time over and over and over again. I also like Mark and Cynthia Miller also there, and they say nightly we do this, no TV, no phones, just our time to talk. And she says how beneficial it is. So you're seeing right there, this isn't just something that, we're talking. And, to be honest with you, I think combined, we'll be married 10 years this summer. You'll be married how long this next year?
8 years.
8 years.
I had to be quick on that.
Yeah, your wife's in the room.
I know, right?
So, both of our wives are going to get upset with us. But, yeah, we're not standing up here like as gurus. There's people in the comments who've been married much longer than us. And there's people in our church who have been married triple of what we've been.
Longer than I've been alive.
Exactly. Yeah, they've been married longer than both of us have been alive. But they would attest to this. This is not something that we come up. This is something that we've learned from people who've been married much longer than us, and just from experience of not making this a priority.
Yeah. And I think one thing that's important, if I could pick on the guys real quick, is shut off the news and shut off ESPN. The news is just going to make you mad, especially right now. ESPN is going to take up all your time. Those things need to be shut off. Those things are not more important than your wife. That's the bottom line. And that's a choice we make. Again, it's a choice we make.
It's good. No, it's really good. So looking at these 3 priorities, so number 1, we talked about financial stability. Again, Manny was in the comments, and I saw his comment, just to reference back to that. A good principle of our financial stability, he said, sleep on it for 24 hours purchases. And I can't tell you how many times that has saved me from making a purchase that I would have buyer's remorse.
Honestly, one of the questions I always ask myself when I'm about to purchase something is, do I need this? And 9 times out of 10, I answer that question, no, I don't need it, and so I put it back.
Yeah, it's hard because I really wanted an iPhone 12, but I didn't need it. I didn't need it.
Need it.
So our first priority we talked about was financial stability. Our second one is our relationships, specifically our marriages, need to be a priority during this holiday season. And so for our third one that we're going to be talking about is the priority. And I know this is going to sound cliche, and people are going to be like, roll their eyes at this, but it is the Sunday school answer. Our third priority is Jesus, okay? We need to talk about Jesus during the season that we're in, because it's funny how much stress, and last week we talked about discouragement in the holidays, and again, how it doesn't seem like that should be an idea or a feeling of anxiety and worry should be around because of what this season means.
Yeah.
But we discussed how common it is for people to feel anxiety, worry, and discouragement during the holidays for a number of different reasons. Yeah. And the main point of that was, you're not alone in that. And it's very common for us to feel it. We gave some good tips. We had Pastor Matt on last week and gave some great content for that. And so, but we're looking at the priorities, rearranging our priorities for the holiday season, and oftentimes we forget Jesus. I'm going to say it because I have to. Jesus is the reason for the season.
It's true.
This is the whole reason why we do what we do. The world obviously takes its own directions, and we have traditions like Santa Claus and the Christmas parties and everything like that. But oftentimes when we lose the priority of who Jesus is, again, just like we're talking about finances has its consequences and the relationships, neglecting the priority of Jesus in our lives during this time. Because why? Well, I'm working extra hours to make more money, so I don't have time to spend a daily time with God anymore. You know what? It's just times are tough. I'm gonna have to pick up extra shift. I really don't have time for church anymore at this point. I have times where I was meeting for a Bible study, but I just can't do that now because of the stress of the times. Whoa! I mean, what was this whole season intended for? Why do we have this entire season? Yeah. And we're neglecting that. And I have an interesting question for you because this is a very common question. In being adult ministries, you've dealt with this quite a bit. How would you answer someone who says, "Well, I see what you're saying, but I can keep Jesus as a priority in my life, even though I'm not going to church and I'm not reading my Bible every day"? Who are you to tell me that I can't keep Jesus as a priority in my life?
I'd say it's hard to keep Jesus a priority in your life if the things that Jesus thought were important aren't a priority in your life. If Jesus thought the church was important, then I should think it's important. If Jesus thought daily time with his Father was important, well, then I should think it's important.
That's good.
It should be a priority. And you see it all over the Acts. All over Acts, the book of Acts is, you see Paul saying, or Luke saying, he's purchased it with his own blood. That Jesus purchased the church with his own blood. If Jesus thought it was important, well, it probably is important for us.
Yeah.
So so that'd be number one. I would say there's a lot of ways to engage. And this is one of the things that we touched on already, but the church is here because right now can be a spiritually isolating season in our life.
Yeah.
And the church is here to help with that. And so that's why we have times like this right now. We have midweek moments. So we have Pastor's Perspective on Fridays. That's why we have church services. They're safe, and we're encouraging people to wear masks and all that. As a staff, we wear masks, but we have our church services. We're having a candlelight service, if I can get a little plug under that.
Yeah,
we're having our candlelight service on the 24th, on the Christmas Eve. But we also have opportunities to serve.
Yeah.
We have small groups. We're going to be starting back up in first couple weeks of January. All of these things allow us to engage in Christian community, and that keeps us from isolation, which is one of the things that is hurting people in general, not even just Christians, but people in general during this time. All those things are important.
Yeah, no, that's great. And that's some good practical ways that we can make Jesus a priority in our life. Because it's not just a goal of midweek moments that we do here at the church, but anything that we do as a church, anything that we teach, preach, obviously we want to be biblically rooted, but to take it the next step and say, hey, this is the truth, now this is how it applies. And keeping Jesus as a priority in life, you mentioned it, tuning into, these midweek moments. We're not doing anything special. There's not anything special about us or anybody who's ever going to be on this, but we're trying to share some practical experience, some biblical principles that'll help you with different topics. Pastor's Perspective, I'm enjoying those. Are kicking up again, and those are easy to listen to. It's 3-4 minutes, which is shocking for Pastor. I'm just kidding, Pastor. I know you're watching this. No, it's great. Yeah. It's great content to encourage you. And being in church on Sundays, there's a lot of fear that's going on and everything. But there's a lot of Christians out there who say, well, I can be a Christian, and I can love Jesus, and Jesus can be a priority in my life, and I don't have to go to church.
Well, here's why I would say that, because I've heard people say that same thing. And I would think of it like this. You can be part of a family. Let's just say you're a parent out there, and you have kids. Your kid could come up to you and say, well, I'm part of the family, yes, but I'm gonna move out. I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm not gonna spend time with you guys. I know I'm 10 or 11 years old, and I'm just gonna do my own thing, and I'm not gonna be home anymore. Well, is he still part of the family? Well, yes, he is. But is he going to grow, and is he going to have that formation? Is he going to be? He's still part of the family, but he's not going to be a good part of the family. Yeah. How can he grow? And that's the same thing I would say to people who say, well, we can't. I can still serve God. I can still love God and not come to church. Yeah, you can, but that's not really what was intended. You can't be healthy spiritually and have that as your mindset.
You're purposely stunting your spiritual growth at that point. The ceiling's only so high. of how God intended us to live out our faith. And that faith was intended to live out in community as we reach other people in our community with the gospel of Jesus Christ. So that's great. And I want to make a note, too, when we're prioritizing Jesus in our lives at a family level, having that, if you go through the Christmas season and don't take the time to read the Christmas story once with your family, I think there's an issue there. I know so I didn't grow up in a Christian home, but I know when I met my wife, and the first Christmas we spent together was the first time I ever saw it before any gifts were open, because they usually did like a gift or two on Christmas Eve, and then the rest. Before any gift or anything or any kind of celebration happened, her dad would sit down and the whole family would sit in the living room, and he would read through the Christmas story. And I was like, oh, this is cool. I've never, again, didn't grow up in a Christian home, didn't really know that, but I was like, how fundamental that should take place in all of our homes if we're claiming to be believers and disciples of Jesus Christ, to take that down. So how do I prioritize? Well, right now our kids, we try to emphasize what the season's about. There's all the fun stuff. There's Santa and elves and stuff like that, and every family has their own preference on what they do there. And elf on the shelf and reindeers and all the games and everything like that. But we try to make sure we keep that in focus as Jesus. And the thing is, though, and for people who have even kids longer than I've had mine, is when you state something as truth, now your kids are going to hold you accountable, and you have to live that. And that's that gets even more difficult. And I think people shy away from that kind of stuff because, you don't want to be a hypocrite to your kids.
Right.
Where you say, well, Jesus is a priority, and then you're completely living your life in a way that does not show that Jesus is a priority, especially during this season here for that.
Well, obviously we don't have kids yet, but I can remember when I was a teenager, when I was a kid, my dad would sit us down as a family, and we would have daily devotions. And it wouldn't always be every single day, but it was something that we did as a family. He would take a chapter from the book of Proverbs, which is a great book to teach children, and he would expound on that particular chapter or that particular verse, and we would go through that as a family, and we would pray afterwards, and those were very formative moments, especially as a teenager.
Yeah.
And I think that probably be a good practice.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I think it's a good, again, that's a healthy habit that you can add into, especially during this time as we just talk about these three priorities. So today on your lunch hour, I'm so thankful that you all have joined us and you're interacting in the comments, and I love it. I love the seeing everybody on here and participating in the discussion. But with these three priorities, we're not saying that you're missing them. We're not trying to get on to you because, this is what we're seeing in our church. No, these are good reminders for myself. I mean, seriously, the stuff that we've talked through, and we're kind of planning for this, and then even stuff that we've talked right here on the show, it's just like, man, I could do a better job at prioritizing these things. And so, again, financial stability, our relationships and our marriage, and of course, Jesus Christ during this time.
And I do want to say a lot of these things that we're talking about, I've learned because of the mistakes I've made.
Yes.
All this stuff, this is 7 years of marriage, which isn't long to some people, but 7 years of mistakes on my part that God's had to speak to me on, and I'm still growing and learning. And so these are some pitfalls in things that we can grow in, not because we know it all, but because we don't.
Yeah.
Because we've learned these things from the mistakes we've made.
Yeah. Well, if you have anything you want to add to this, we're going to continue, of course, with the video stay up on Facebook. If you have any other prioritize that you think we should have added into this episode, make sure you leave a comment there. As always, if you have a prayer request or anything like that, please drop it in the comments. Excuse me, if I can talk. We'd love to be able to spend some time in prayer for you. Or if you have any needs, church family, or even guests from our community who may be watching this, we want to do everything that we can to help you during this time. And we have a few things coming up. The big thing you mentioned, why don't you tell us about that Christmas Eve service real quick before we end this?
So Christmas Eve candlelight service is going to be on, obviously, Christmas Eve, which is December 24th, and we're going to have it at 7 p.m. I'm really, really looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun for everybody. We're going to have holiday goodies. We're going to have, sugar cookies. We're going to have hot chocolate for the kids.
Hot cocoa.
Or the adults with marshmallows.
Yes.
We'll have some holiday coffee. And we're going to come in, we're going to have our candle, and it's just going to be probably 30, 45 minutes. It's going to be a very simple but very, very meaningful service where I believe you're going to be leading in the worship, a couple of traditional songs, music, and so really looking forward to that. And then we'll have a Christmas Eve devotion, and we'll be able to chat with others, but that's going to be essentially it.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I really am looking forward to this is because there are some people and some family and some friends who wouldn't come to a service throughout the year, but they'll go to a Christmas Eve service. And so this is really an opportunity, not only for us to spend some time with our family, but spend some time with family and friends and invite them to church when otherwise they might not.
Yeah.
And so I think this is going to be not only for a family, but this is going to be an evangelistic tool. And so that's one thing I'm really excited about that because, I'm praying for open hearts.
Yeah.
Praying that God would, and where there's going to be a clear message of salvation. How can there not be on Christmas Eve? And so really looking forward to that, and then small groups starting up in the new year.
Yeah.
That's going to be starting the third week of January. So really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
And you can already sign up for that if you want. And we're already looking for hosts and leaders for that as well.
Very good. So lots of opportunities here. We do hope to see you on the 24th. It's going to be a special, just an intimate family time of a service there. And we're looking forward to that. Well, thank you so much for joining us on Midweek Moments this Thursday at noon. Remember, every Thursday at noon, we're going to be going live here as we're going to have different guests here on Midweek Moments. If you have any ideas for topics that you'd like to hear in the future, leave them in the comments, message us, or even you can shoot me an email at andy.g@deserthills.church. Love to hear your ideas. I hope you have a good rest of your workday. Hope you have a great week, and we will see you on Sunday.